White churches have not just been supported by white supremacy, they have served as its headquarters. I know you don't want to hear that. They have taught white people that oppression is godly and that power belongs to us by divine right. After the civil rights movement, powerful white people, men, saw that their grip was slipping. Black people were winning court cases. Poor people were organizing. Women were demanding rights. How dare we? LGBTQ people were coming out of their closets, and the foundations of white male dominance were cracking. So they thought, what can we use that no one will question? In 1979, Jerry Falwell founded the Moral Majority. He said it was about championing family values. That was a lie. The real trigger was that the IRS had begun revoking tax exemptions for whites-only Christian schools. Those whites-only schools were created specifically to avoid integration. Falwell's own school, Liberty Christian Academy, was one of them. The platform of the Moral Majority ended up getting built around the issue of abortion. Although that wasn't the original plan, they basically test drove different topics to see which ones would resonate the most with the audience they needed to capture, which was white Americans, white Christian Americans. It had everything to do with maintaining the right to discriminate, yet still enjoy government benefits. This guy named Paul Weyrich, who was a conservative political strategist, he teamed up with Falwell to build a political base. He admitted that abortion had not really motivated white evangelicals until it became politically useful. Their real grievance was losing control over who could sit in their classrooms, walk into their churches, and live in their neighborhoods. Once they realized that abortion could mask their racial panic, they made that their headline issue. They built a movement that turned pulpits into propaganda platforms. Sunday services became political strategy sessions. That's illegal. You're not supposed to be able to do that at a church if you're getting tax exemption. Ministers told white families that their enemies were not the wealthy elites exploiting their labor. They were not the politicians cutting their wages and stealing their pensions. The churches pointed to the poor, the black, the brown, the queer, the immigrant. Those people are the one. White churches have not just been supported by white supremacy, they have served as its headquarters. I know you don't want to hear that.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. Good to have you all here this morning.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Niele Anderson, your co-host, and this is where we're going to break down some headlines that are impacting, of course, the Black experience. And I guess that was a history lesson from one of our allies.
Well, somebody who knows history and knows it the way it's supposed to be told. And speaking of history, I saw our thumbnail this morning. And so we got to mention that for the first time, 116 years or something of that nature, the NAACP is not inviting a sitting president to its convention that kicks off, I believe, on July the 9th. Of course, Donald Trump did not take the snub lightly, as his spokesperson spewed off how the NAACP is about divisiveness and how Trump is trying to unite America by closing the borders, and a record number of Black Americans voted for this mandate. So they're going, of course he wasn't going to take it lying down, but the NAACP is doing exactly what NABJ and Ken Lemon should have done last year. But last year's last year.
Yeah, that's last year. But yeah, I mean, I think that we've known that the NAACP has been standing, on business for 100+ years, and they're doing so now. And I mean, speak truth to power. We don't want to see him at the NAACP awards. There's nothing that he can say to a Black person to show that he is a white ally. He's not, and you're not invited.
He's the enemy of the state. Are you kidding me? And right. And I'm with RNG. The NAACP has stood up. The NABJ was an embarrassment. You knew it going in, and certainly it proved to be just that, an embarrassment. So NAACP says we're not having it. He's done too much to harm Black folks and other communities, marginalized communities. We are not going to do it. So good for them. There you see the president not invited, not invited. So I saw that this morning. I saw Lauren Burke actually has a story about it that probably any moment will be on BlackPressUSA.com. She got a statement from the White House, and she's going to have that story shortly. Our Black Pop quiz is: which future hip hop legend once played the Mouse King in the Nutcracker during his classical ballet training? Holy smoke! Too short. I don't know. Which future hip hop legend once played the Mouse King in the Nutcracker during his classical ballet training? Folks, I need to see the answers.
Yeah, I like to see what the audience has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, that's a good one too. I got to
That's a
think
good
about
one.
that one. Yeah, anybody got any clues at least? Because I'm trying to give me a clue. Because I mean, that'd be somebody short. I mean, it sounds like it would be somebody short. Somebody's
Hmm.
very nimble. Somebody
Hmm.
obviously who can dance. So we'll see. I guess we'll get the answer
We'll
shortly, but
see.
we really want your answers in the chat.
Yeah, chime
Um,
in. Let us know what you think.
it was not Flavor Flav. Somebody said Tupac. I'm guaranteed it wasn't Flavor. Dr. Joy said this would be learning day for me. Somebody else said Tupac. So we got 2 for Tupac. Okay.
That
That's
sounds about
interesting.
right. Well, he went to a liberal arts school when he was in
He did.
Baltimore. I think it was Baltimore. So I mean, that's possible.
You can see Jada
His
having him in the
birthday was
Nutcracker.
yesterday. You know,
Mm,
might be.
okay. All right. We'll see. Folks, some of the headlines this morning include: across the country, Juneteenth events are being canceled or scaled back as cities lose public funding and corporations quietly pull their sponsorship. For instance, in Denver, what was once a 2-day celebration has been reduced to one. San Diego organizers lost a $25,000 federal grant. And then over in Scottsdale, Arizona, they canceled its Juneteenth event entirely after shutting down its DE&I office. From Colorado Springs to Bend, Oregon, and even statewide in West Virginia, Juneteenth is disappearing from public calendars just 4 years after becoming a federal holiday. Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Bend, Oregon, Colorado Springs, Denver, and cities in West Virginia are among those canceling or greatly reducing its Juneteenth celebration. So really it comes down to, if Juneteenth is a federal holiday, why are so many cities treating it like an optional inconvenience?
Well, I see that those are being canceled, but I think Juneteenth is more popular than it's ever been in this country, which is a positive thing. We know that when it was made a federal holiday, most people, black folks, was like, "We didn't ask for you to do that. We asked for reparations." You know, like, why are you doing that? We want, at the time, Sheila Jackson's leads HR 40 to pass. We didn't ask for that, but I mean, there's still thousands of Juneteenth celebrations that are happening across this country, from Atlanta to DC. We got about 5. Ours started on Saturday. And I loved it because while people were protesting, you had people down here in Long Beach doing the boots on the ground. Layla Hathaway was performing. And so I think even though that it's going away, Juneteenth is more popular than it's ever been in this country. And that's just another Black history lesson that America is learning, whether they like it or not.
There's no question that this holiday is going to be removed. But as you stated, it took, and we'll get to more into that actually later in our Black Facts. But it took until what 2021 before it became a federal holiday. So all the years before that, nobody really cared whether or not it was a holiday or not. I think part of the point is now you because of DE&I and Trump and his hatred toward, stuff like that. Folks are removing funding, so there are areas as the aforementioned areas who are they're taking away their ability to celebrate the way they would like to celebrate, and taking away grants as much as $25,000 and things of that nature, and just pulling the event all together in their towns and communities. That is a problem that folks are not too happy about.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it, but I also know that, we ain't never asked for no money for Juneteenth. We've been celebrating Juneteenth. They're usually produced by Black churches, by local community. Like I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Over the past 4 years, it has grown, and now everybody knows about it. But traditionally, Black Juneteenth has been something that us Black folks have been celebrating with no funding, no money, just the historical context of it and us knowing. And so, I mean, I think we'll be fine with this one. Although, yeah, it's sad, but like I said, we ain't never need no funding for Juneteenth.
Well, and it'll like we said, we know that this guy his his hatred, gosh,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, is not going to allow for many. Now, it's not just Juneteenth. For many, you can expect things like the Puerto Rican Day Parade and West Indian Parade, things of that
Hmm.
nature, um, to just have no type of real sponsorships anymore. And that, as to your point, I guess there are a lot of people who are saying, okay, well, you know what, we did it without it, and we'll do without it again.
Yeah.
We'll continue to act.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Juneteenth was,
that is where we at.
like I said, we've never asked for Juneteenth. We didn't ask Joe Biden to make it a holiday. I remember people are still saying we wanted reparations. Like, let's have that conversation. Because we know how to celebrate Juneteenth. We know what it is. We know how to gather our community. We don't need you for that. But we appreciate it, but we don't need it. So I think that I mean, this is one of those holidays where they can't take it from us, even if he took it off the calendar.
Um, and he says, Why Labor Day? Why does he want to get rid of Labor Day?"
He wants to get rid of Labor Day?
Yeah, why does he want to get rid of? Yes, he does, and why?
Oh, I didn't hear that one. Okay. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to know
yeah.
why. I want to know why he want to get rid of Labor Day. He
I
want
said
us
the
all
when
working.
he said that, it was about a week and a half ago. When he said that, he mentioned that we have too many holidays.
And he's while he's on the golf course all
While
the
he's on the
time.
golf course. Exactly. There you go. And Dr.
Hilarious.
Joni too. And that's the thing too. Dr. Joni says that it doesn't mean it should be disrespected. And some people are taking it as disrespect. But to your point, it's like, um, hey, up until 2021, it wasn't even a holiday. So who
Yeah,
cares?
and we were celebrating Juneteenth, okay? Educating our communities. Like I said, it's traditionally done through Black church, through your local organizations, and they get funding from their city council. Like the funding from the city council's not gonna stop, things like that. So I was doing Juneteenth festivals 15, 20 years ago with Bishop Noel Jones in the City of Refuge. We had emancipation proclamations there. We found this lady whose husband made this collection. And he had the different emancipation proclamations from various states because we know that he declared freedom for all, emancipate, but each state did it at various times. That's why Galveston, Texas was the last to know. You know what I'm saying? So there's such a we was doing it by ourselves before, so we don't need Donald Trump or Target. Keep boycott. As a matter of fact, let's double down on Target. You don't want to fund our Juneteenth festival? Continue to boycott.
Yeah. He said, Austin says, how about Convicted President's Day? You can celebrate that every day, huh? And it is a state, RNG says it is a state holiday in Texas, a state holiday in Texas. There you go.
Oh,
It
that's
became a
good
legal
to
state
know.
holiday, yeah, in 1980. And rightfully so in Texas. Folks, the biggest and boldest grift in American history continues. Donald Trump's latest scheme, the latest scheme, a $500 smartphone you can buy, branded with Trump's name, along with a service plan that starts at $47 or around $47 per month. It's just the newest piece in what many call one of the most blatant money grabs in American history. According to his June 2025 financial disclosure, Trump raked in over $600 million in just past year from golf resorts to cryptocurrency to licensing deals overseas. He made $17 million, I should say, from Florida golf clubs alone. A meme coin called Trump earned $320 million in fees, and his crypto firm World Liberty Financial owns billions in governance tokens. He claims that his businesses are in a trust run by his chosen, yet he personally continues to benefit. And so it goes on and on and on. The White House has been, remains, and continues to be for sale.
Yeah, it's actually 47.45. So $47.45 because he was the 45th president and now he's the 47th. So they have they you could tell him and his sons thought real hard, long and hard about that one. I mean, and this is no surprise. I mean, he did it the first term, he's doubling down on the second.
Yeah. Mike V says folks will buy that phone to have the government listening on their calls as if they're not already listening. But now I guess that'll give them a closer snapshot. And MB calls it the bank job and the biggest heist in history. It is. It's without question the biggest heist in America. And it's happening right before your eyes. It's happening right in the open. It's like somebody just, taking the mask off and walking into the bank and just saying, open the vault in front of everybody. No weapons needed.
Yeah.
And you walking out. He talked about it's interesting, folks. And here's what we haven't heard recently, because he talked about this when he was elected. When he took office, Fort Knox. And you know what Fort Knox is supposed to contain. So, folks, this guy is
No, what is Fort Knox supposed to contain? What
well,
for
Fort
those
Knox is
not know?
where all of the riches are, all of the money. I think they got gold. What is in Fort Knox? Gold and the valuables are like the most. It's locked down. It's you need like some sort of special penetration to get into Fort Knox, and it's supposed to contain
Mhm.
all the money, sort of like the Treasury Department, and it's like the Treasury's bank, is what Fort
Mm.
Knox is. And he's talked about that shamelessly. He's talked about it. And so don't be surprised when that is rated as well, if it hasn't already been rated. Gold, it's the gold reserve is what Dr. Joni and the two doctors, Dr. Nicole and Dr. Joni, is saying gold reserve. He's talked about that, and he's licking his chops because he knows he can't be
Mm.
stopped. Or at least he won't. They refuse to stop him, put it that way.
Yeah. In the words of Beyonce, America has a problem. And keep going. 501 movement. They're the ones that organized the No Kings Parade. They have been growing and swelling. So keep up the good work. Meanwhile, NAACP, they won't be sending out no invitations to the White House. Angela Rye will keep going around the country with State of the People. Everybody is doing their work in resistance. And I think that is when we look at and talk about all of the things that Donald Trump is doing and what the American people are doing to resist, you have these different pockets of people that are doing what needs to be done, and everybody can't do the same thing. And us as Black folks, we're still trying to figure out, our statement in resistance. Because right now we're not showing up to the protests like they want us to, but at the same time, like NAACP, You have Angela Rye. You have Michelle Obama's "When We All Vote," making sure that people know that there's elections, primaries happening today in Virginia and Georgia. And so, we're just going to keep, as he does what he does, we're going to do what we do.
And Dr. Jody says every part matters. And the question becomes, as you mentioned all these things, is it leading somewhere? Is it leading
Of
to
course.
the ultimate? Well, do you see it all leading to the ultimate goal?
The goal is to resist and to learn how to exist under this administration.
Okay.
So yeah. hmm
Okay. So the
And
goal.
to get to the midterms and to get to the
Okay.
midterms and to get him out of office. That's the goal. So yeah, people are the it's growing. Yes. hmm
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, listen. I just asked. I don't know where it's going. That's why I wanted to ask someone who you talk about this resistance, and I wanted to know from where you sit. Do you see it leading to the ultimate goal?
I mean, Saturday is a good indication that people are fed up,
Oh, I think people
contrasting the
are. Yeah, I
parade
think we
and
we we
and and
know
to
people are
showing up.
fed up.
Yeah.
We
hmm
know people are fed up, but again, you could be fed up, but you can still not achieve anything. You could just be fed up.
Well, I'd rather be on the fed up and do something
Mhm.
than to just sit there and just be cynical about everything. And, you
Okay, but that's
know,
not. Yeah, that's not the option. I was saying though. I said
no,
you
I'm not saying
can
you were
be.
saying it. Yeah. I'm just saying in general. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just be so discouraged that you're just not going to do anything, and you can be fed up to the point where, like you said, there's this resistance, and you just want to see that there is a goal that you could see steps toward it, and I think what you're saying is that with all of these things, state of the people, the no kings resistance, as Dr. Joni says, every part matters, that people can actually see light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, yeah. Ask, I wish we could ask the ancestors that question because they had it way worse than us. And thank God they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, because I think their despair was way worse than what we're going through right now. But they had to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that it's not as harsh. It's bad, but it's not as harsh. And if they could do it, then yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because think about the disparity that they had.
Yeah,
They didn't even know
somebody
they was free. We were talking about Juneteenth. They in
they didn't
Galveston, they didn't
know.
even know they was free. So I mean, yeah, I think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And
Yeah,
this too shall pass.
Nancy Wall says the Supreme Court should really be ashamed of themselves for allowing all this stuff to happen. That's what I was saying yesterday. That I just think that they're going to have to, if this thing is going to at least slow the train down, they're going to have to step up. And Mike V is asking Niele, what does resistance look like for Black journalists?
I think that, I was Mike V. I was, as I was answering that question. I think what we're doing right now, telling the stories, amplifying the voices that are part of the resistance as a Black journalist. That's why it's so important to bring the Dr. Melina Abdullahs from Black Lives Matter, to bring the Wakinya Claytons that was running for chair of the DNC, to bring Nakima Levy, who helped organize the Target boycott. In this movement as a journalist, part of our role is to amplify Black voices and the voices that are doing the work, and to be able to tell the stories of hope, and to be able to tell the stories of resistance. I think Black press is critical right now because we see mainstream media has bowed down and kissed
Oh, big
that
time.
Trump gold ring. And so it's so important for us to stay motivated and to be able to like I say, amplify Black voices, Black stories that are talking about moving Black folks forward.
Yeah, and couple of other quick notes. First, RNG, he mentions that the U.S. District Judge William Young in Massachusetts ruled it was illegal for Trump administration to cancel several hundred research grants, adding that the cuts raised serious questions. That judge also lashed out too, basically calling out the racism in the Trump organization. So that was, I thought, really, really important as well. It probably fits into your to what you're saying about the entire resistance, to have a federal judge really call out the racism, because he really called out racism in Trump's acts. And the language was very strong. And Patricia Jackson, right, she says she often, she says to me that she often asks that question, the question I asked about where does it, the end goal. But she says early education helps because Democrats wait too long. She says, I pray we resist and react, not just for attention. And I'm glad she said all that, because that's part of what I guess what I was saying too, that it's about attention. So I really like that comment, and based on what how Niele broke it down, it's like, no, we could see light at the end of the tunnel. This is not just for show. So
I mean,
that's
there's
always a
always
good
going to
thing.
be people. Yeah. And I think that, there's always going to be people for show. There's always going to be people who want to stand in front of the microphone. But then there's all of those unsung heroes that are showing up every day at, the city council meetings. It's those people that are showing up to the police commission meetings. It's those people that are showing up, to the protests, like one of the people we're learning about now in history, some of us knew, but think about like a Fannie Lou Hamer, or what about the black girl whose name, her name doesn't come to me. I think it's Colvette or whatever. But before Rosa Parks, there was a brown skinned girl who decided not to give up her seat on the bus. So there are people who are going to want to be in front of the microphone, but there are 10,000 of those that are really doing the work. And those are the unsung heroes that we have to, even though we don't know their names, we could thank God for them because they're doing the work.
Also, the puzzling things that continue to go on in this administration, among them doctors at the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. Now, we just had the big parade, right? The so-called military parade, which we know what that was about. But the doctors at the VA nationwide now can refuse to treat unmarried veterans and Democrats under new hospital guidelines imposed following an executive order by Donald Trump. The new rules also apply to psychologists, dentists, and a host of other occupations. So because you're unmarried, or you might be a Democrat, you may not be MAGA, you may not get care at the VA, even though you're a veteran. Folks,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe when I saw this, Leah. And I
Yeah.
kept going through the information, and it never changed. It is what it is.
Yeah, this one is, scary because he is really trying to politicize, he really he really wants us to bow down and kiss his ring. Dude, come on, Trump.
Yep.
Like, seriously. And how do they know? Like, to say you're a Democrat, how do you know? Now, I can see you knowing somebody's marital status, but how are you going to know if they're a Democrat or Republican? Right. Are they going to have a checklist now for questions for you to answer to identify your political party?
Yeah. Do you go to the hospital or see a doctor? Marital status do from time to time come up, but your political status never comes up.
Yeah, like, what are you going to say? Did you vote for Harris or Trump? I mean, I guess that's the one question.
I remember this guy has called veterans suckers and losers. This guy has denigrated 5-star generals. He has no respect whatsoever for the U.S. military. The VA has more than 170 hospitals, more than 1,000 clinics. It employs
Mhm.
26,000 doctors and serves 9 million patients a year. And so he wants to cause millions really to lose their ability just to get health care.
That's why nobody showed up for his little funky birthday party on
His
Saturday.
funky birthday boy.
That's why nobody showed up. And like I said, I feel bad for the Army because they should have been celebrated for 250 years of protecting us. But he want to have a
Unreal.
little party and nobody showed up. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, Stacy,
Uh-oh.
another reason why they didn't show up, because remember how he treated his MAGA family at the inauguration? Had all them people come out there, and
Yes.
then he decided to go into the rotunda and leave them people
In the
outside looking
cold.
stupid.
Oh, in the
Why
cold.
nobody came to his little stupid party?
Nancy Wall says he's trying to start a war. It's not going to end well for him. And Mike V says, this is what a neo-apartheid looks like. And Dr. Joni says, this cannot be legal. VA and military should be utterly apolitical. That's a pledge to the Constitution. That's blatant discrimination. You aren't allowed to ask that in job interviews. It is, but the Constitution means absolutely zero to this guy. And
No.
again, it goes back to the Supreme Court of the United States allowing this to go on.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
It's
stuff.
horrible.
Well, and then another strange aspect of Trump's administration, his second administration, is the ongoing assault against the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Last month, Trump fired the head of FEMA and replaced him with a loyalist who has zero experience in disaster management. The moves made by the Trump administration to dismantle FEMA have resulted in several key leaders departing the agency. The National Response Coordination Center is the nerve center for FEMA during emergencies, and during major disasters, it serves as a 24/7 emergency operations hub. It hosts experts from different federal agencies, the military, and even nonprofits. So when a major hurricane, wildfire, or other crisis hits, they help coordinate everything from getting rescue teams on the ground to dispatching food, water, and medical supplies to disaster zones. Of course, FEMA plays a critical role in Black communities, especially given the disproportionate impact of natural disasters, environmental hazards, and climate change on these populations. So this dismantling of FEMA, it's not just reckless, it's deadly.
Oh, you're right. It's deadly. We're in hurricane season right now, and you know, he's fired everybody, that knows how to run and how to, help people in times of crisis. So it's going to be interesting and sad at the same time to see what happens during this hurricane season. And it seems like he's just looking for chunks of money to cut for himself, for his personal reasons. And, FEMA's on the chopping block. And I know his former press secretary, Huckabee, who is the governor, I think it's of Alabama, right? She's the governor of Alabama. Is it Alabama? Arkansas. Is it Arkansas?
Okay.
I think it's Arkansas. It's an
Maybe
A.
so.
It's Arkansas.
It's an A.
But it was even begging him to not cut the FEMA funding because her state is going to need it. And so that's what, we always talk about, that's what these Black MAGAs get, but that's what these white MAGAs get too, because all of these southern state governors, Abbott, hurricanes hit hard in Texas. Okay. And so, it's going the bad fall is going to rain on the just and the unjust. So they going to get it too.
But you said something just now about these cuts and where the money is going, because you understand that's just not hyperbole, folks, because Congress voted and approved fundings that he is now stopping. And we know that he's enriching himself, has been, and we talked about that earlier. Is it possible that money is being rerouted into, one of his companies?
or his friends. I think like when I think of privatized prisons, um who the government, some of that money is used to like help build these prisons. I think of privatized prisons, and I remember the white governor of what's the state, her name is Ivy, um but she took her covid money to build a prison for GO. What's her name? I'm gonna give you the state that she's in. But she took her prison money, her PP, she took her COVID PPP money to do business with GO, a privatized prison. And so they reroute money and they use it for their boys, their rich friends, or however, like if they make this, then I could benefit and make money by doing this. And to me, that's the game that Donald Trump plays. Let
Yeah.
me get her.
It is the game he plays. MB says they want to sell public lands to the highest bidder. And I did see, and someone mentioned this in the chat, asking, did we see this, Dr. Joni, that the newly appointed FAA leader lied about having a commercial pilot's license? Yes, I did see that. And also, she mentions the money already allocated, just like for PBS and NPR. They're taking money already voted on and allocated to these organizations.
Yeah.
That's what makes it all the more illegal. It should be illegal.
Right.
And that's why you're seeing these appellate judges, um, stop, or at least order him to stop. But then he goes to find his judges who will side with him.
Right. And just to be clear, fam, Kay Ivey is the governor of Alabama. She's the one that
Yes. So no,
reallocated her COVID money to fund a privatized prison. And Sarah Huckabee is the governor of Arkansas. And she wants FEMA money. And Trump told her no. Just wanted to be clear and on the record for that.
wait, Trump told Sarah Huckabee no?
Yeah, she wanted FEMA. She needed help.
It's his homegirl.
She begged him not to cut the money.
That's his homegirl.
You know?
She was the White House spokesperson for a while under his first term.
Yeah, she was a press secretary. So, I mean, it's just, that's why if us as Black folks, hey, we gotta be smart too. You know what I'm saying? Like our ancestors paved the way to where we just ain't got to pick cotton or just, so we got to figure it out too. Let's make our ancestors proud.
We're gonna switch gears now away from politics to something that's, social media is, for many, it's a drug, and it can be deadly. And we're talking about the life and tragic death of an influencer couple. Zarya and Shamarcus's relationship had all the warning signs: frequent public arguments, emotional accusations, threats, jealousy, and all masked as love. And as I got to give credit to Media Takeout, I check in on them once in a while, and they was talking about this, and they said that these aren't just red flags; they are sirens. And when we ignore them, brush them off as just how some couples are, we normalize behavior that can escalate into abuse or worse. For those watching their live videos unfold in real time, the tension between these two was unmistakable. In the final stream, where the Frenchman, or they called him the Frenchman, allegedly threatened Zarya, it should have been a wake-up call. But by the time law enforcement got involved, it was too late. He killed her on a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live. And many folks watched as he strangled her to death. They were arguing over past infidelities, apparently, maybe even current infidelities. And then she was kind of laughing. She wanted to tell something about him, and he didn't want her to tell it. And she says that just moments before he strangled her to death, she says, "So I have to die because I want to, you said this about me, so I have to die because I want to say this about you." And it was only within seconds he killed her. And then ultimately, and they have at least a child. I think they have more than one child. Not long after that, he gets in the car, drives off, and then he goes somewhere and he kills himself. recognizing that his life was really over as he knew it. But this is awful, awful, awful.
That is horrible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I, it's
The social
horrible.
media aspect, these influencers, and not all, you got to be careful with social media. And it's like I said at the top, for many, it's a drug, and things can spin out of control real quick. And I really love, and I put this as a talking point because I really loved again how Media Takeout summed it up. And they said, if you take one thing from this story, let it be this: that love should never hurt, not physically, not emotionally, not psychologically. If your partner threatens you, belittles you, or controls you, that's not passion, that's poison. And this is such a sad, sad story.
Yeah, it's very sad. Did they have kids?
They had at least one child. I want to say they had two. I didn't, I don't follow influencers. This story had been all over my feed, and I guess everyone else's feed yesterday. And it just made me curious as to what happened here. And I recognized the fact that they have so many followers and had so many followers, and they were very popular. I didn't know about them, but they were very popular. They apparently made a lot of money through social media, and they had a very toxic relationship in doing so.
Mm. Well,
So,
condolences to that's I was asking if they had kids because condolences to
right.
all parties involved that have to deal with the aftermath of this. It's
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah. Yeah. MB says not everything has to be a performance. Yeah. What a shame. Um, so anyway, folks, just be careful how you use social media.
Yeah.
Influences as well. So just be careful with that. So I guess we have some
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. That is tragic. Like I say, prayers to the family in the aftermath of that. Use your social handles wisely,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
they say. But we have some breaking news. It's being reported R. Kelly has overdosed in his prison cell
Mm.
while in solitary confinement. And he's been rushed to the hospital. This report is coming from his attorney. He was at a federal prison in North Carolina, and he's been rushed to Duke University Hospital. So
Wow.
we'll keep you updated on that story. We reported last week that his attorneys were looking to have a pardon, or due to some the Aryan Nation Brotherhood trying to kill him based upon some prison officials. And so a week later, there you have it.
Wow, that is some shocking stuff right there. He's facing, I mean, he's doing what, 30 years?
Um, he has some time. I don't remember
Yeah,
what his.
I think it's about 30 years that he was sentenced to. And like you said, about a week ago, we reported on the fact that his attorneys have appealed to the president for a pardon, or to consider a pardon. Things seem to be getting really dicey in there for him, with the claim of his life being in jeopardy by someone from the Aryan nations. And now we hear this breaking news that he has overdosed in prison.
Mm. Yeah, so we'll keep you updated on that story. And we have a few more stories that are impacting us because of the Trump Klan administration. They've directed U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to expand deportation efforts in cities run by Democrats, following protests in Los Angeles over his immigration policies. Now he's calling on ICE to do all in their power to help reach the administration's mass deportation goals, singling out Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York for ramped up enforcement efforts. And this comes on the heels, as Stephen Miller has said, he wants 3,000 per day. I think this also follows to the veteran story that you talked about, as to where he's singling out Democrats individually, as well as statewide, citywide, um, for him to just pick on. What about Texas? What about New Mexico? What about all of the states along the border? But you just go come for California, New York, and Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'm pretty sure the protests will continue. And this is just happening also on the heels. Secretary of State Mark Rubio has signed already the order that's sitting on Donald Trump's desk, and they're just waiting to see if he's going to invoke this new order to ban 30 more countries. And these countries make up us: Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Caribbean islands are Black African countries on the continent of Africa. And so, like I said, it's the Latinos today, but look, the order is on his desk for us tomorrow.
Wow. It's just you mentioned like St. Lucia, St. Kitts, places where folks like to go to vacation.
Right. Or Tanzania. Now Tanzania is like one of the hot spots to go to in Africa because of their plush beaches, and then Ghana. Everybody wants to go to Ghana now in December for dirty December in Ghana. You know what I'm saying? Nigeria. I mean, what is this? Now, there are some reports that are saying that he's doing it because they don't check on the passports and the visas.
Not true.
They're not. Well, this is what some of the reasons why the government is saying they're doing it, because they don't make sure the people come back and they let them overstay on their visas and passports.
That's far from true.
Far from true.
It's just another excuse.
Right. But we were saying, why does this matter? Why does immigration matter? Why does because now it's our turn. Now it's our turn. So hey, we in this together, whether we like it or not. And then more things that are impacting, especially African Americans. Millions of Americans are seeing their credit scores suffer now that the U.S. government has resumed referring missed student loan payments for debt collection. Now, a lower credit score makes it harder or more expensive to obtain car loans, mortgages, credit cards, auto insurance, and other financial services. And this is, of course, at a time when inflation is high, interest rates are high, and layoffs have strained the resources for some of its consumers. And so we're talking about just everyday American people, but we know if America gets a cold, us Black folks is catching pneumonia. And so we saw just a couple of other weeks, we reported how African American women's unemployment is higher than anybody else's. This is the impact. But I'm going to jump on one of your talking points now, Stacy. This is where I get mad at Biden, because he should have just got rid of everybody's student loans. He
tried. He did try.
But no, he should have. Just like you say, he should have pardoned this person. And why didn't he pardon that person and picking it? Just get rid of all of it. Donald Trump is showing us that he could have.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court kept stepping in and stopping Biden. If you recall, I'm not absolving Biden of some of this because he certainly deserves the smoke that you're giving him. But the pardons are something that he can do on his own. He doesn't need Supreme Court approval. But the loans, you're right. I mean, Trump is showing another avenue. So you can't tell me that Trump and his people are smarter than the other administrations. So
well, they doubled down. Yeah, I mean, he could have look. Give us an executive order. Give an executive order and say all student loans is forgiven. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it also shows you too that again, you're right. I've talked about the power that Biden abandoned, that the Supreme Court, because it didn't just give it to Trump. And see, what happens is these executive orders, traditionally, they've just been that. They have been a piece of paper. I want it done this way or that way. And heck, if a judge said, no, you can't, the president, no matter whether it's Biden, Obama, Bush, whomever, would abide by that. Supreme Court said you don't have to unless we say so. right? Unless the Supreme Court stops it. So Trump, who has a Supreme Court in his back pocket, has ignored all these judges' orders. But it also shows you too that Biden, as you say, could have done the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
there's no excuse. No excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. So so we have that to think about. And of course, somebody else brought this up, but I'm gonna double down on it. The House approves Trump request to cut funding for NPR, PBS, and foreign aid. So the House narrowly voted on last Thursday to cut about 9.4 billion in spending already approved by Congress, as Trump and his Klan administration looks to follow through on work done by Doge. And so thank God Netflix picked up Sesame Street. And so, I guess we're going to have to continue to donate to NPR to make sure that's one of probably the most unbiased sources out there right now that, is still thriving.
That's the problem.
And putting out accurate news.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can, go follow Sesame Street on social media. I'm telling you, you will get your life back. Lessons for everybody, kids and us too.
Well, one of the things dictators do is they seize control of the media. It's become state-run media, and NPR and PBS are seen as threats to the dictatorship. He's already controlling the networks with these large payouts, these huge deals, and everything else that they are giving him. He's not giving it to them. They're giving it to him to capitulate. So he knows that mainstream media is under his thumb, and some of them he's going to eventually just simply crush and put it into. And NPR and PBS posed a great challenge to him. And look, let's face it. After he has effectively crushed them, he's going to come after us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at immigration. We thought it was just about ICE picking up Latinos, and look at what's happening this week. He coming for us now. And so this is just, we get tired of talking about Trump, but at the same time, all of these things are coming like a whirlwind that are impacting us. And then I sat and I watched CNN for just about most of all of my day yesterday. And all they talked about was Iran and Israel, which is important things that are happening, but there's so many things that are impacting us Americans here. You know what I mean? Like, we're on the brink of a civil war. And so, it's just interesting, like the conversations that are being had right now.
Yeah.
And in the world they want us to live in the world we're actually living in.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot. And last but not least, we're going to head down to Huntsville, Alabama. And so leaders are condemning a racist letter sent to the city's first Black councilwoman. There was a handwritten letter referred to the councilwoman's hair as nappy while calling her racial slurs. Now, her name is Michelle Watkins, and she received this anonymous hate message, like I said, that referred to the racial slurs. And so now the NAACP and the mayor are speaking up and wanting accountability for what has happened to this councilwoman that made history in Huntsville.
Well, and it's no wonder that she's getting the hate and the threats and things of that. It's a shame, but you could, I would imagine that she had been preparing herself for that.
But just imagine now, after what happened in Minnesota.
I know.
So these letters now are more threatening than they were last week because of what has happened to those state lawmakers. I know yesterday it was reported that Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries was having bipartisan meetings with legislators on the Hill about security for lawmakers. You know, it makes you think of the Jasmine Crockett's. It makes you think of Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters was talking about how people didn't want her out at the protest on Saturday. And so, you know, this Trump clan administration is very dangerous. And they're probably more of a threat to us than Russia right now.
Yeah,
Domestic terrorism.
Yep, without question.
Yeah. And just a couple more headlines in Diddy news. Yeah, we got some Diddy news. As we know, Kanye showed up in court last week. But the most important news is that a black male juror has been dismissed by the judge due to his inconsistent responses about where he lives. At first, he said he lived in New York. Then he said he lived in New Jersey. And it just became a big thing. They said Diddy was, you could see the disappointment in his face. His attorneys asked for the case to be dismissed. The judge is like, I don't think so. And basically now that juror has been replaced by a 57-year-old white man.
So here's the thing. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the jurors now make up is made up of 8 men still and 4 women, and they all live in New York.
Well, here's the thing with that. First of all, in case anybody missed it, another juror is expected to be dismissed today too. But here's the thing with that particular juror. We're a month and a half into this trial. He gave these answers to these questions months ago when they were trying to select a jury. Now, his answers were kind of weird. You know, he's a corrections officer, but he's really an accountant in a corrections facility. He lives in the Bronx, but he really lives in New Jersey. New Jersey certainly disqualifies him if he does indeed live in New Jersey. But we're a month and a half in. What was it about this juror that made the prosecutors go back and scrutinize his voir dire questions and answers at this point? That is unheard of. Show me any trial where a prosecutor or a defense team a month and a half in decides, let me go check this juror out, his questions out. Not just check the juror out, but I want to check his question and answers out. Something's not right with that. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's covered so many of these celebrity cases, that just doesn't happen. That's crazy to think that here we are, the trial, the prosecution's case is almost over. And yet they decide, I'm going to go look. They got signals. All I'm saying is they got signals from this juror that he was pro Diddy. And they wanted to get rid of him. And not only because he was black, but what I'm saying, they got signals that they believed. Okay, maybe I'll say it that way. They got signals that led them to believe that he must have been pro Diddy. We don't know if he was pro Diddy. We don't know if he was just sitting there taking in like he's supposed to the information so he could make a decision. But for some reason, they got spooked by this juror, and they decided they needed to do something to get rid of him. Because even the judge at first, the judge was like, that's not a big deal. Then all of a sudden it became a big deal. So
because they said he kept changing his story. So a lot of it had to do with him, you know, one day he's in New Jersey. Then he said he lived with his baby mama in New York. So, I mean, some of the accountability does lie in his hands because he kept lying.
He got a summons. He got a jury summons in New York. Why did he get a jury summons in New York if he lived out of state? That's another question to ask. It doesn't. Now,
because he said he lived with he said because in one spot his baby's mama lived and he was going back and forth.
That's what he says. But the fact is, Niele, no matter what he says, there was a reason why he was sent a jury summons. He must have at some point lived in New York, worked in New York, voted in New York. To get a jury summons. So it wasn't his fault that he got a jury summons and he answered it.
But if he lived in New Jersey and knew he didn't live in New York,
Oh yeah, I get it. I get it. He must
yeah.
maybe he realized because you don't know initially. I don't think so anyway. Whose trial that you'll be sitting on. Maybe you do actually,
No, you
but
don't
maybe
know.
he
You don't know. Yeah, you just get
yeah.
picked. Yeah,
Yeah, you
randomly.
answer
Yeah.
this right. It's like, why are you answering the summons? Most people don't even want to, they want to make an excuse. Now most stuff is online. You can say, hey, this is why I don't, I got one back in January, and my excuse was I was having a anniversary party, and
Mm-hmm.
the judge, the judge said, okay, you're good. We won't hold you,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm saying is, it's just so suspicious. Right, it's not all on him. A lot of it is on him if he lied, but he got a summons. He got a random summons, which means that he had a New York address.
Yeah, I mean that's easy. I mean that's not uncommon. You move, people move. Maybe it was at his mama's house or his sister's address, and he was
Mhm,
registered there. I mean, there are all types of reasons why you get mail at your sister house, your mama house, your auntie house, your ex-girlfriend's house, because that's where you was living at that time.
mhm.
And so I mean, it's not, it's not something that's deep. It's just, he's the one that kept saying, I'm okay, yeah, I live in New York to get on the jury, and then they ask you another question, then you say you live in New Jersey. Um, is it a big deal? Maybe not. Who knows what's going on in that the freak off courthouse. But
Yeah. Yeah,
I
my
mean,
only question is, why now? Why did they decide now to start looking at this juror? That's all. I mean, they could have legitimate reasons. Maybe he does live in New Jersey. That disqualifies him. Maybe he lied. That disqualifies him. But why now? That should have happened a month and a half ago, at least. Is all I'm saying.
but what if he brought it up recently? What if it came
How
up?
could it have been? That's the point, though. How could it have come up? They don't. Nobody questions the jury during the trial.
Well, they said that they said that during the trial that it came up several times based
The
upon things
question
that
becomes why.
He said maybe they all the jurors were in the room, and he said it in
Okay.
front of a juror, and the juror said, "Hey, he doesn't even live in New York."
Okay.
That could have happened.
Okay.
Maybe he's
It could.
talking, and the bailiff heard him.
Right.
They
Right.
said that he changed his story several times about the explanation, because the judge did say, I don't have a problem if he has a girlfriend over in New Jersey, but something he was saying himself caused it
Hmm.
to happen. So
Right. So yeah, you're probably right. And one of our viewers says that jurors talk. So there you go. Maybe
and
that's how it started coming up. Because I
and
just
they
don't see any other reason why it would come up.
Yeah, and they say that this jury, there's some standout breakout characters in the box of 12. Because you're not supposed to give your reactions, and so it's a lot going on in that courtroom. We should try to get one of the reporters on the show to come give us some insight that's
Some
there every
insight.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that about wraps it up. But don't forget, folks, that today, if you're in Georgia or Virginia, you have some primaries happen, and we know all politics start local. So make sure if you're in Georgia or Virginia, that you head to the ballot box.
All right. So our Black History fact is on this date in 2021, as we talked about earlier, President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, officially making Juneteenth a federal holiday.
Yay! 2 more days, y'all. 2 more days. And in our celebrate, oh, there he is. Is that do we want to hear it?
No,
Oh, we're not
we
gonna hear
we
it.
don't need to hear from
Okay.
Sleepy Joe.
Well, need to hear. Oh, look, there's DBC. Oh, Sheila Jackson Lee. I know she was like, but where's HR 40 at? Can we talk about reparations, Biden? Can we talk about reparations? Um, there's Barbara Lee. Now she is the mayor of Oakland. So time has passed and things have changed.
Yeah.
But celebrating June, Black Music Month. There's a lot to celebrate this month. So today, for Black Music Month, I'm going to take you to the year of 1978. And this is where the Commodores charted with Three Times a Lady on Billboard's chart, and it would eventually end up to being number one on both the pop and R&B charts. And a fun fact about the Lionel Richie song Three Times a Lady, it was inspired by his parents' romantic longevity and their 37th wedding anniversary. So that's where the inspiration of Three Times a Lady comes from, Lionel Richie's parents. And a fun fact about the group's name, the group credits their name to the flipping open of a dictionary by William King, a band member, and him pointing his finger somewhere on the page. So the Commodores, there's no rhyme or reason to their name.
Nope,
It was just
nope.
picked out of a book.
I was talking to Thomas McClary from the Commodores not long ago, and one of the craziest things I had heard for years, and I talked to Thomas about it, was that the Commodores thought Lionel Richie could never make it on his own, and they baited him to become a solo artist. Bands, they're together all the time, they fight, they argue, and they baited him. Well, he became really, by record sales, the biggest star in Motown history. So and Thomas McClary is like, how about that? This guy, he was one of us, but he became, really, in terms of record sales, he became Mr. Motown. So Lionel Richie. What a voice to say that for anybody to say he couldn't sing or couldn't make it on his own.
Chad, what's your favorite Commodore song? Mine is Zoom. My favorite Commodore song is Zoom. Tell us what your
Jackson
favorite.
says Zoom as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And what else? What else y'all got?
Easy.
Oh, Easy's a good one. Okay.
Yeah. That's mine. Okay. It's a lot.
Yeah. Wow. And of course, last but not least, today in 1987, Pulitzer Prize poet rapper Kendrick Lamar was born. So today is Kendrick Day. And in the words of Kendrick, y'all, we gonna be all right.
So we got the answer actually to our Black pop quiz. Let's bring that up. Which future hip hop legend once played the Mouse King in the Nutcracker during his classical ballet training? All right, y'all. Who is it?
Drum roll.
So they got it right. It is Tupac. Tupac, actually, he wasn't a tall man. So yeah, it fits. Yeah, it kind of fits. Yeah. And probably a good dancer. I don't know about his dancing. Was he a great dancer?
He had rhythm.
Well,
he could two-step. Yeah.
He could two-step. Okay.
If you could two-step, you can learn a dance step, I don't know if doing boots on the ground, but
okay, but he was in the Nutcracker, so that suggests, because that's a musical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that suggests that he could dance.
Yeah, he was multi-talented. He went the gangster route, but he was trained. And he definitely loved acting, even though he was typecast as always a menace.
Of course.
But yeah.
Zarya says he was a great. She says he was a great ballet dancer. And he was short. Okay. Yes, he was short. 5'8" is what Orangey says.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe he was great, but he just chose to go the gangster route, and you can't be doing ballet as a gangster.
She said he was trained, but he chose the gangster route. But and I'm sure you have, so it's not really a question for you, but it's more for everyone else. Have you ever really sat and listened to interviews he's done, particularly about the Black community and stuff like that? I mean, the guy was really he very educated. He was intelligent. He knew he knew his way around an interview. Put it that way.
Right. Well, I mean, look at his parents. They were part of the Black Panther movement. So he was raised with a conscious mind,
There you
and
go.
he was talking about Donald Trump when he was alive and what Donald Trump was doing. But
Yeah.
he knew that because his parents were part of the resistance, and not the the unapologetic resistance. And so he knew these things. And I think that's what made him such a great voice in the Black community, because he decided to go the gangster route. And because he did that, people, our community listened to him when he spoke. I know out here, Brenda March Mitchell and Danny Bakewell Sr., they used to do a lot with Death Row Records and Tupac and Snoop, when they were all on Death Row Records, in the Brotherhood Crusade. And so he was just one of those voices that, like, Baby Don't Cry, Keep Your Head Up, Shed So Many Tears. I mean, he spoke to the times. And I think that's why we love Kendrick so much, because they're similar in a lot of ways of how they speak truth to power and they speak to the times that we're in.
Interesting. Wow. Tupac Shakur. How about that? Him being the answer to that trivia. I would never have guessed. All right. Our Black-owned newspaper of the day is the Harlem Community News. The Harlem Community Newspapers Incorporated publishes 4 newspapers: Harlem Community News, Queens Community News, Brooklyn Community News, and Bronx Community News. These publications are free to readers, and the group currently distributes 25,000 weekly copies in malls, supermarkets, retail outlets, apartment buildings, banks, colleges, YMCAs, libraries, and cultural institutions in the communities that the newspapers serve. So our Black-owned paper of the day is Harlem Community News. Check them out, folks.
Yes. And of course, it's a lot going on. We went through a lot of stories, but there's a lot more happening. And you can find all of that information at BlackPressUSA.com.
And check us out again tomorrow and let it be known. We'll see you then.